Poor old Sonya Deville. You've heard about this. Obviously, everybody's read about this at this point. Did you see the picture of this guy?
I did, yeah.
You would walk past this clown on the street and not even notice him. Just a mousy, creepy-looking, nondescript schlub like you would see anywhere. And here he's gone through this whole plot. He showed up. He stalked her. Stalk on social media. He's bothered her, harassed her, pestered her on social media, I guess, for some time. But he actually goes down there and he's been plotting this. And he shows up at her house with burglary tools and kidnapping tools of what, tape and zip ties and the whole goddamn serial killer fucking handbook. This little schlub, when you look at the picture, you would think, well, fuck, Sonya Deville or any WWF girl could fucking handle this fucking guy, but he came prepared. And, you know, what the fuck? That's fucking gruesome. That's creepy. And what can they do to this guy? How long can they, because it's not like you get locked up for 6 weeks and decide, well, I'll just never think about this again. Who's going to be keeping an eye on this fucking guy?
I don't know. I mean, I know she got, I believe, an emergency protection order, but that only goes so far. And
well, if you're fucking nuts.
Yeah, no, this guy's clearly nuts and obsessed, because I actually saw his Twitter account, and it was like out of a movie. When you see like one of these weirdo stalkers in a movie, every tweet was about her or retweeting her. It was just a really unhealthy, at the very least, obsession with her. How long do you get held for this? How long could you go in for?
Not long enough.
And thank God she got away. Thank God. And Mandy Rose apparently was her house guest when this all happened too. Thank God, you know, this guy's plans did not work out, because who knows how depraved this lunatic is. I certainly hope for the very worst for him, but I don't know what's going to happen.
I thought you were going to lead up. I certainly hope he gets some help. No, I certainly hope the very worst for him. Oh, no.
No, I think anyone who does something like this deserves the very worst that society could offer.
Well, I mean, this is even worse than the fucking guy that was that came to the performance center constantly and was arrested a couple times. Did he end up getting shot, right? The police had to shoot him or something.
Did he end up shooting the performance center? Am I remembering wrong?
Either he shot the performance center, the cop shot him. So there was shooting going on, but it was more than once, and they got a restraining order. But because these people are mentally incompetent, so restraining order, big whoop, right? Because they've got their own fucking thing going on in their head. How he thought this was a good plan, with or without a restraining order, I don't think that would have had anything to do with it. And we're laughing at some aspects of this, but not to make light of it. That's fucking creepy. And that just goes to show you how many nuts there are. It's not like all nuts are wrestling fans. It maybe, wait a minute, maybe it's like that, you know, Americans aren't all stupid, but most stupid people are. Maybe all wrestling fans are not nuts, but most nuts are. I don't know. But when you think about Sonya Deville, she's not even the big star, and I'm not knocking her here. I'm saying she's not marketed as the biggest female wrestling star in the world. She's not as big as a female Lady Gaga, for fuck's sake, or rock stars or movie stars or whatever. There are these kind of obsessed nutcase people that are fans of, and I've never understood why you're a fan of somebody so you want to kill them. I haven't made that connection yet, or kidnap them or whatever the fuck.
I love you. Let me kidnap you. It doesn't make any sense.
But there's people like this. Anybody in public, especially entertainment. I don't think anybody's after the female politicians necessarily like this. But anybody in entertainment or sports in the public eye, they go through this shit. Kurt Angle had a female stalker, did he not? One time, several years ago, David Letterman woke up one night and found some woman in his house, claimed she was his wife, and kept coming back and was obviously mentally incompetent. You know, that's all the more reason why it's so fucking easy for all these nutcases to get guns in this country, which is where the real fucking problems start. That's another discussion, but it all ties in. A lot of people out there are mentally fucking incompetent and dangerous. And I don't know why more people don't see this, but nevertheless, for the girls, it has to be especially problematic. And not even because, like we said, most of these girls kick the shit out of the guys that would give them a problem like that. But that's hand to hand, face to face, and all things being equal. If somebody's cutting your fucking screen door at 4 a.m. and breaking in with tools and weapons, that all things aren't equal. So are the girls going to have to? Is the company going to have to provide the girls some security? Private security, if they're going to be, putting them on television, enticing these lunatics, should they, pony up for some fucking backup? That's a question. I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's really enticing the lunatics just by having them on TV. There are lunatics who see these things as, I don't know, as weird communications with people. I found information here about the guy that was arrested at the Performance Center, the Performance Center stalker. Here's an article from WrestlingNews.co. Andrew Ravens, the author. WWE Performance Center stalker gets arrested again. Armando Alejandro Montalvo, I believe, who is known as the WWE
If
stalker.
that is indeed his real name, imagine that. Somebody probably heard that. Wait a minute. Poor old Estrada's stalking the Performance Center? Is he still pissed at us?
Who is known as the WWE stalker at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, was once again arrested on the grounds of the training facility. This is from June. The arrest happened Monday night. According to the Orange County jail records, he was booked on one misdemeanor charge of trespassing on property after warning. In fact, Montalvo was live streaming on Facebook when the arrest happened. By watching the stream, he ended up running from deputies after being confronted. This comes after he caused a scene with WWE stars Lacey Evans and Dana Brooke last Monday during the WWE TV tapings. Montalvo was arrested and shot by police officers at the WWE Performance Center in 2015. After various incidents, WWE filed a restraining order against him in 2018 after he cryptically threatened wrestlers and staff on social media. As noted, Montalvo is headed back to court soon in order to continue his civil case with WWE's lawyers. The attorneys are trying to prevent him from stepping foot on their property and harassing talent. I mean, here's a guy who has a long record of doing it. He's been shot by the police while stalking and harassing.
And that didn't stop him.
And he still comes back. They still can't stop him. That's a problem. There needs to be some kind of law preventing these guys. If you're going to constantly stalk and harass and nothing stops you, you need to be put away. Period.
Yeah. Because there's obviously something going. It's not even a personal issue where everybody's of sound mind and sane. They just hate each other and they know each other. And it's you can't. This is so random. The celebrity can't be forced to, watch out for every human being in the world. Somebody, these people have families, any friends, they work anywhere. Does anybody notice that they may not be in possession of their fucking faculties? And this is a new thing also. Think about that. There were, in wrestling traditionally, obviously, the stalkers were women because almost all the talent was guys. And the stalkers, quote unquote, were pissed off rats that felt like then that they had been led to believe that things were going too far, or that things were going farther than they were, or that they were, in more of a relationship that they were in. Sometimes they believed that on their own. Sometimes they were led to believe that. But it was more in the variety of them stalking the guys to find out their home number and their home address to call their wife or whatever the fuck, rather than actual physical harm. And that was, fairly common in every territory. But there was never, and obviously the heels had to watch out in the moment when they got heat, when they started a riot, whatever, in the building, when they were in the middle of the fans, or when there was an incident at a bar or a store where the heat was fresh, you just fucked that guy. Dennis Condrey, a guy fucking sucker punched him in a fucking convenience store right after they'd seen us fuck the Rock and Roll Express out of the fucking Mid-South Tag Team title with the ether. It was that fresh. He just saw it 3 days beforehand, and you motherfucker, boom. But there was never, I can't think, can you, Brian, of any cases where anybody planned and it was carried out or tried to carry out some type of assault or attack or kidnapping or whatever with premeditated fashion on anybody ever in the wrestling business, any males? That it was all spur of the moment.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. And, this is something, like you said earlier, that happens in the entertainment industry. When I was at Sony Music, I remember it happening to one of the executives because he was interviewed in a magazine, and this woman overseas, I forget what country she was in, saw the interview, became obsessed with him, and decided she was going to marry him. He was married and had kids. I mean, it wasn't like this was anything he was a part of. She started sending just the creepiest packages to the building, to 550 Madison, and it got to the point where we had a captain in the New York City Police Department who did work with us, and we went to him with the material, and he got in touch with whatever authorities over there to try to stop her, but she would still send stuff. And that was what happened. If someone was stalking, we would go to our NYPD guys, and then they would contact the local police station. If it was something domestically, it would be much easier than something overseas, but this happens. I got to imagine it's happened to some of the female talent in the past. I mean, you see people who were major stars for a while, like Sunny or Sable or anyone. You got to think there's some lunatic sending crazy notes to Titan Tower. I love her. And that's what you do. You go to your police guy, and usually a major company, you have, a captain or something like that you can go to, who does some work on the side for the record label or the wrestling company, and you could say, hey, we have a crazy stalker here, do something about it. And usually they contact the local police station in that person's area, and you try to scare them. Usually it was the first tactic. Like, look, you will be prosecuted, you will be arrested. And if that doesn't work, you have to, go to...
Do you see the picture of this pie-faced fuck? I don't think he gives it. He would probably have a better life in jail. Then look at the look on this guy's face, and look at the state of this fucking guy to begin with. And obviously he's nuts. And so I don't think a warning of, you're going to be prosecuted if getting shot didn't stop the other guy. But and yes, like you said, every one of the girls since the 90s has some story of creepy communication or creepy people or just creepy in general. Not to this extent that I remember that, they were actually breaking in the house and the burglary tools and the whole 9 yards, but creepy letters or creepy communication or phone calls or social media or whatever. And it just, with the girls, it's usually a creepy guy with some kind of sex thing in mind. But we get we get harassment. It's just not of the same level, and it's not as, creepy. But this just, I've told the story before. It has been a while. I've told you the story of Bobby Eaton's stalker, didn't I?
No, I don't know anything about that.
This was not a dangerous stalker. This was the cutest stalker ever. But see, this was,
maybe we shouldn't encourage this.
Well, no, it kind of worried Bobby because things, could take a turn with these people. But there was a girl in Wilmington, North Carolina, that became infatuated, have just seen him on television, and we were heels, right? And everybody hated us. And she never wrote me, and she never wrote Dennis Condrey, but she wrote to Bobby Eaton, care of the Jim Crockett Promotions office on Briar Bend Drive in Charlotte, at least 4 to 5 times a week. When I would go in, there'd be the box of mail and then the box of her mail. And she had fallen in love with Bobby Eaton and decided that they were meant to be. And I mean, she sent the pictures. I'll just say her first name was Pam. The last name she gave Sounded like a gimmick name anyway. She appeared to be at least in her 30s from the pictures, and not a sex pot, not a person who tried to be provocative in appearance, just an average, everyday, kind of blasé, bland 30s type of girl, right? But she was sending these cards where she would draw the hearts and the pictures, and they'd be postcards, or it'd be letters, it'd be packages. She sent pictures of her nightstand and her dresser in her bedroom at home that had shrines to Bobby Eaton, who she called her little tater. Her little tater. And in a basket on her dresser was a wicker basket of potatoes, baking potatoes, with little blonde fucking yarn wigs on them. And little fucking, like, this is before the Cabbage Patch dolls, but they looked like, and she had dolls that were made up to look like Bobby Eaton, her little tater. And it was like she'd cut a picture of Bobby out of the wrestling magazine, and cut a picture of her head out of one of her pictures, and put them together on the top of married couples' bodies in advertisements. And this went on, right, for months, these letters, and because we didn't go to Wilmington that often, right? And I think I still have this box of stuff in my office closet. It was too good to ever toss out. But I mean, the pictures of the taters, and she sent taters, and just this constant barrage of these communications and these long letters about how happy they'd be together and how much, whatever. And finally, we go to Wilmington. We're booked in Wilmington. And they ran outdoors at Legion Stadium. That's where Flair and them were headed in the plane when they crashed, just short of the Wilmington airport. And we get there, and it's rainy that day. And obviously an outdoor show, rain doesn't mix. So as we get there, it's raining. And they don't know whether it's going to break up or not. And there's like 1,500, 2,000 people out there under the roof of the grandstand, but they're huddled up and waiting to see where the show's going to happen, and it just won't stop raining. But we looked out from the far end of the stadium where the dressing rooms were, and while all the other people are up in the grandstand and huddled up under the roof and the rain's coming down, there in the distance you see this one girl with an umbrella and a dozen roses and wearing this dress, and it's her. And she's got the dozen roses for her tater, and she's as close as the public is allowed to be toward the dressing room area, and she's standing there in that rain. And Bobby was scared to go out. He said, if I go out there and say hello to her, she'll come and kill Donna, right? She'll break in my house. And we shouldn't laugh under these circumstances, but it was funny at the time because I didn't think she'd resort to murder. She may have choked Donna with her own two hands. But anyway.
Let's not make light
of anything of that type. But he was like, I'm afraid to go out there and be nice to her because I've never even met her and she thinks we're going to get married. But you never know about these people. And these people have access to firearms in this country. Just a thought. But we wish Sonya Deville the best. But wait a minute. Who was with Sonya Deville?
Mandy Rose was her house guest, and luckily, I guess, Sonya was tipped off. She looked out her window and saw someone.
But wait a minute. Here's what I'm going for. Are they on opposite sides? One's a babyface and one's a heel.
Well, I think people know they were best friends in real life, but then I guess she turned on Mandy Rose during the whole Otis. It's not a feud. The whole Otis escapade. I don't know what word is there to use.
Well, then they need to be fined. If they just
come on,
just like the Sheik and Duggan, they got pulled over by the cops. They were outed being together, babyface to heel. They were together in her home. They need to be fined. We got to be consistent here.
Actually, funny enough,
It's okay if they were in their homes together and then nobody found out, but if it becomes public, they must be fined.
Well, as many people know, next week, the next coming Drive-Thru, we're going to review AEW as well as NXT TakeOver, and the next week here on The Experience, we're going to review SummerSlam. where apparently one of the matches is Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville, hair versus hair.
Oh, come on.
That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, come on. What?
Hair versus hair match.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, they're both attractive-looking young ladies, so who's going to bite that bullet? I guess that's why they're selling tickets to it. Well, no, they're not selling any tickets to it. They're not selling any tickets to it. Then one of them just going to shave their fucking head?
Well, once again,
if I'm all in favor. That's a match you can't call the finish to. And I think it would be a big draw if they could actually sell tickets. They can't even sell pay-per-view because there's no such thing anymore. It's on the network, right? So why the fuck would either one of them want to get their head shaved? Are they just paying a bonus for the hell of it?
I don't know. It still kills me that Triple H didn't do a hair match. He just decided to show up one day with a shaved head.
Oh, that's crazy. But nevertheless, okay, they're wrestling on the big show. They're just in the worldwide news in each other's home. I say I fire them. Fire them. Fuck it. Fire them.
Stop it. You're being silly now. You wouldn't.
No, I'm not.
You're going to fire them?
You're going to fire them, yes.
The only reason we know she was staying in her house, the only reason we know she was staying in her house is because a maniac stalker tried to abduct her.
All right, well, in that case, wait until the sympathies died down and fucking fire them in 6 months like they did with Gallows and Anderson when they fired them when it was convenient. But got to be consistent. Fucking shitting on their fucking match right there in their home.
I disagree.
Either that is there a reason why didn't they escape their house?
They did.
They escaped the house and called the police.
Yes.
Well, then she had time to drop old Mandy Rose off somewhere, and nobody would have known.
You know what? I'm going to disagree with you on this premise. The WWE doesn't take any of their shit seriously. I don't blame the talent for not taking it seriously while working there.
Well, I guess you're right. Bad leadership. All right.
If someone was there, let's say someone was in charge who said, if you're working a program with someone, I don't want you to be seen in public with them. You can't go to a bar with them. You can't have them sleep over your house. Nothing. Then I think there's an argument to be made. However, even with that case, I mean, even in the era of kayfabe, guys would occasionally, there are stories about Bobo Brazil hanging out at the Sheik's house, but they didn't expect there to be outsiders. They didn't expect the stalker to chase everyone outside.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Don't you remember that's when we had Dave Brzezinski on? Bobo would eat in one room and Sheik would eat in the other room.
That's true. That's true. But we wouldn't have known about this if it wasn't for this lunatic.
Don't fire him because the lunatic stalker. Just fine him.
You can't find them.
I can't find them. They don't work for me, but I'd find them if they worked for me.
If they worked for you and they knew the rule was you can't interact in public with someone you're working with, someone you're in a program with, that's one thing. The WWE treats this all like a big joke. I can't blame them for ignoring the other one's best friend. If the WWE is not going to take it seriously, why should they?
All right, I still think that Sonya Deville had time to drop Mandy Rose off the corner down the street somewhere before the cops got there, and we'd be none the wiser.
I don't know if you're thinking about things like that when you're running for your life.
I'm always thinking about the wrestling business.
And you're always running for your life.
I'm always running. Well, that was one of the reasons why that it was verboten in the wrestling industry to call the cops on somebody else in the wrestling industry, and it was better to handle it yourself and commit a crime than to call the police, because police ask questions, and questions sometimes need to be answered, and sometimes those would be questions you wouldn't want to answer, so you keep the fucking cops out of things. But in this case, you couldn't.
Well, once again, let me just reiterate, I don't think they should be fired or fined. I don't think they did anything wrong in the current world of WWE. And if they were fired or fined, we may never know who's going to get their head shaved at SummerSlam.
Well, that's true, unless they're hopefully that somebody's going to get their head shaved, because I've been down that road, and I know if you don't shave somebody's head,
I was there.
People are going to get pissed. Well, and then they learned in Memphis when the people actually set fire to the seats. So that didn't work out very good either. And Jerry Jarrett was running back to fucking people. You want to drop your hair? You want to drop your hair? Anyway, I'll tell you one thing, regardless of whether it's Sonya Deville or Mandy Rose, that's her name, that gets shaved, they're going to want hair again at some point in their life, right? We all do. We want to have hair. And some points in our life, we get started thinking about our hair more often than other times. Because did you know, great Brian Last, 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35?
That's a scary
And the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have your hair left. So I think Sonya and Mandy should both right now get on Keeps. That's right, Keeps.com.